Welcome to Simply Bitcoin. We break down the news from Twitter, the daily fail, meme review, software releases, hardware releases, and the websites by plebs. Joining us today, fellow Bitcoiner. I'm talking about Ali from Tahini's restaurant. That's right, they're cooking up some awesome food, but first we're going to the numbers.
Number time! Brought to you by Bitcoin 2022. It's going to be the largest Bitcoin conference in the world. It's going to be absolutely crazy. The speaker lineup is nuts. Naim Bukele, Michael Saylor, Saifuddin, Adam Back, Jack Mahlers, aka Jack Baller, is going to be absolutely crazy. And you can take advantage of the link down below for 10% off your tickets to Bitcoin 2022.
At the time of this recording, the block height is 722,527. The Bitcoin price, 44,555. Chain rewrite, that is so interesting that it's 555. Anyways, chain rewrite days, 738. Total public lightning capacity, 3,434.20. Moscow time, 2244. Blocks to the halvening, 117,473. And Samurai Whirlpool's unspent capacity is 4,376.89. And for the people who don't know what that is, Samurai Whirlpool is a coin mixing privacy service, and the 4,376.89 BTC is the liquidity currently in the Samurai Whirlpool.
And for anyone who's wondering what the Kaka fiat price is of 4,370 Bitcoin, it's about $190 million, give or take. So it's a good chunk. It's a good amount. But anyways, I have something really interesting, and I've been saving this, Phil, for Ali. Okay, because this is a great conversation to have with Ali. And of course, what am I talking about? I am talking about Bitcoin treasuries. And why is this a good conversation to have with Ali? Because the Tahini restaurant, Ali put his tahini on the table, and he decided to put the treasuries of the Tahini restaurant into Bitcoin. Badass move, and that's why if Tahini ever goes public, I'm definitely going to buy some of that stock because I know they have Bitcoin. Anyway, and they make awesome food. But anyways, let's check it out, right? Here is MicroStrategy. It's so funny.
Look at that.
Dude, it's 122% of their market cap is in Bitcoin because they had to borrow money. And of course, they hold on 125,000 Bitcoin. That hack was so big. I'm referencing the Bitfinex hack. Mm-hmm. It was 120,000 Bitcoin or something like that. Dude, that is absolutely crazy. I can't believe they kept it on a cloud. Okay, anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. That is about 5.595% of the total Bitcoin supply. Tesla holding 0.2% of the Bitcoin supply. They're holding, where is it? Okay, 43,000 Bitcoin. Marathon, that's the giant miner, 8,000 Bitcoin. Square, 8,000 Bitcoin. MicroStrategy is just absolutely going nuts. Here are some other companies, right? 1,000 Bitcoin, 941, 489, right? Going down. There's governments, right? Bulgaria, for some reason, got, scratched out. Maybe it wasn't reported correctly.
They sold.
The Ukraine has 46,000 Bitcoin. El Salvador has 1,691. Georgia, the country of Georgia, has 66 Bitcoin. Grayscale has 654,000 Bitcoin, around 3% of the supply. That is absolutely crazy, and it's a bunch of the other ETFs. Now, for some reason, I don't know why Tahini is not on the Bitcoin treasuries list. That's messed up.
So actually, Rodolfo reached out to me, and he's like, hey, do you guys want to make this information public? And I was like, I thought about it for a bit, and I was like, nah, we're a private company. We don't have to disclose that.
That's a very good idea. That's a very good idea.
Good for you.
Yeah, so we just kept it. But it's everybody's asking about the question. Like, people reach out to me from mainstream media. They want to write articles and stuff. First question they ask is how many Bitcoin you have?
No.
You know, I'm like, no, this is like asking how much money is in your bank account.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
it's
that's not
private
You see how
question.
they treat it like a novelty?
Yeah.
Like it's like a novelty, right? Like, oh, so how many do you have? It's like, really? You honestly think I'm gonna tell you if I whatever I have?
and let that be a lesson to everyone who's watching the show, especially if you're new to Bitcoin. If someone asks you how much Bitcoin you have, trust me, no. Just say maybe more than 0.01. You know, just like, you know, give them a little bit so they fucking leave you alone. But don't tell people how much Bitcoin you have, and that's because it literally paints a giant target on your back. That's literally what you're doing, right? So yeah, I completely agree. But so, you know, the $1 million question or the 1 Bitcoin question, right? Ali, why did you decide to put your treasury into Bitcoin?
Well, yeah. First of all, thank you guys for having me. It's a pleasure to be on your show. I'm a big fan.
It's our honor to have you, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
We're honored, man.
We're honored to have you on.
So yeah, I basically fell down the rabbit hole in after March of 2020, and I got like I bumped into Robert Breedlove's article, "The Number Zero on Bitcoin," and it kind of clicked for me. And then so I just bought it for myself personally. Then as I started to learn more about it, fell down the rabbit hole. Bitcoin Standard, devoured it in 3 days, bought more Bitcoin. Price of Tomorrow, devoured it, bought more Bitcoin. And it was just like, a lot of Bitcoiners have gone through that. It's where you spent countless hours staying up late at night and not being able to sleep thinking about it. So I went through that, and then it ended up being started selling all my stocks, and I just ended up being like almost 100% Bitcoin personally. I dragged down my partners down the rabbit hole with me. Then I put it in my kids' education funds. Then it grew to be like a way of life for me, where I wanted to incorporate it into my business as well. So I talked to my partners, had a few conversations about it, didn't really pull the trigger. We were kind of scared. And then as soon as Michael Saylor did that first buy, I think it was like 125 or 175 million, we were like, game on. It pushed us over a cliff. We were like, this is a race of accumulation now. So we FOMO'd in basically with our company money. And and then I just tweeted about it. I opened a Twitter for the business and I tweeted about it. And it became a passion for us as a company to tell our audience on social media and in our restaurants, tell them about Bitcoin, teach them about Bitcoin, teach our employees about Bitcoin, our franchisees. And just we've been big proponents for Bitcoin ever since. We think it's an instrument that will radically change the world. We think we'd like to be known for more than just a restaurant. We'd like to stand for something. And what's a better goal in life than standing for economic fairness and economic opportunity? So
wow,
here we are.
A beautiful, beautiful story.
Yeah.
And
so beautiful.
It's exactly what you said, right? This is a peaceful revolution, and it's the responsibility of all of us, particularly in whatever situation you're in, whether it's a funky YouTube channel, whether it's this awesome, restaurant, whatever situation, whatever platform that you have, it's how many people do you want to get on that life raft, on that orange life raft, right? But you skipped over something, Ali, and I'm really curious. You said it clicked for you. There's always a life experience that you went through for that click to happen, right? So in my particular case, I've talked about this many times. My family's business was very heavily affected by the 2008 financial crisis. We lost everything. So for me, I was already extremely disillusioned by the financial system. What was it in your case that made it click for you, right? Because you skipped over it, but I saw a little smirk in your face.
Yeah. So it didn't really it clicked for me in 2020, but I guess when you put it that way, I kind of had a primer before that. So I'm originally from Egypt. I grew up there in the Middle East, and I was part of the Arab Spring in 2011. I was part of the Egyptian Revolution. I was out protesting in the streets, fighting riot police, getting hit with tear gas, and then after the revolution, me and my brother decided to move to Canada and start our careers here. At the same time, my father also wanted to retire, and he was working in Saudi Arabia actually, and he had worked there as a math teacher for 30 years. He kept most of his wealth in Egypt, whether it was in real estate or the banks. And then as he continued to grind out the years, but after the revolution between 2012 and 2016, the Egyptian pound lost 65% against the US dollar because of inflation. So that really, that can really do something and make you distrust money as the world knows it. Mm-hmm. So, we saw everybody in Egypt. We were here, but I saw my parents' life and 30 years of effort just get destroyed in a few years. So even still then, Bitcoin didn't click for me, but I guess it takes you, it's part of the experience. And when March hit and I saw the insane amount of printing that the Fed or the Central Bank of Canada or the ECB were doing, that's when it clicked to me that, we're going to go through the same exact thing here. And there's no reason why it shouldn't be. And everyone here is living in a bubble, not looking in the, globally, examples in history of what has happened before when you're applying the same monetary policies. Same thing was happening in Egypt. People in Egypt were living in their own bubble. People here are living in their own bubble. And this is the time to be critical and think from first principles and think about money, because that's literally everything that you work for. So it's a very important question, and it's a very important topic for people to have conversations about. But everyone's distracted now with, this a whole pandemic. So I guess it's, it plays out as a good distraction if you want to print trillions of dollars. But yeah, I'm here to talk about it. So,
man, that's incredibly powerful. And Phil, do you want to say something?
Oh no, I was just agreeing with you. I was just agreeing that's it's very powerful, and I definitely appreciate you sharing that background story. I think that people I think that people don't necessarily understand, right? Everybody is it kind of like you said, right? Everybody's kind of just in their own bubble. So when you get to hear these stories, right, and how these terrible decisions being made by governments, are affecting people, individuals, right? Like it means something to you, right? Like something like that happened, right? The Egyptian Revolution, that meant something to you, and then it changed. It made something click for you that you then decided that, maybe we're not living the way that we should, like why are people being, why are people having these problems? And then after that, having the devaluations take place, like why, so yeah, this is very powerful stuff.
Absolutely, and it's crazy how many times I've heard that story, and it always happens to be with people that experience the true severity of hyperinflation, right? Specifically in my case, I'm a first generation immigrant myself. I come from Venezuela, a country that experienced crazy hyperinflation. So it's interesting to see a lot of people in the West. It's exactly what you said, right? They're so distracted about the pandemic, but because they've never experienced breaking money, right? They have this, naive thought that it's like, oh, it could never happen here. We never, this could never break here. But, the writing's on the wall. You see the record amount of money printing. You guys are both Canadians, the hockey stick of literally, the Fed chart, right? So, yeah, man, it's absolutely bonkers. And it's, you protect yourself by buying Bitcoin. That's literally how it is. But anyways, Phil, it's time for the Daily Fail.
Brought to you by Amber App. Check them out, amber.app. It's Bitcoin made easy, the easiest way to buy Bitcoin. Fair spreads, low fees, a Bitcoin stacking app by actual Bitcoiners.
Amber, the smart way to stack sats.
We're giving you a warning, Ali. This is the section that usually our guests are like, why the fuck did I agree to this?
Yeah.
However, the fans absolutely love it because they see how uncomfortable we get. Yeah. Phil doesn't get uncomfortable because he knows what he's doing, but usually I get uncomfortable because I feel bad for the guest, and the guest is like, what the fuck is going on? So, Phil...
I'm just going to sit here and smoke my hookah.
There you go, exactly. And don't get me wrong, like, it's like you kind of have to be a little ripped to buy into these projects. So, but I know fruit flavored tobacco doesn't necessarily rip you.
Keep it rolling, Phil. Don't do a countdown. Keep it rolling.
No countdown. Okay, no countdown. Okay, fine. All right, so guys, look, we are gonna dive into. Actually, look, this was shared with me by at Hans Films, fellow Bitcoiner who watches our show and shares a lot of really terrible fails with me. He's actually the one that shared the Bitmouse one with me as well. So anyways, I think he's like going for a record. So let's dive into this, right? This isn't going to be a government fail. This is just going to be another typical getting scammed by an influencer fail. So let's dive into it. Crypto scam. Rapper Gunna accused over alleged rug pull in a now deleted tweet. As shitcoins face a bear market, people are struggling to juggle their investments across several blockchain platforms. That sentence, I'm sorry, I had to highlight that sentence because that sentence is meant to validate all these shitcoins and make you think, that's right, I'm investing. I'm doing due diligence. No, you're not. These are shitcoins. They don't need to be tokens. This is garbage. Anyways, I will continue. Gonna tweeted out, Pushin' Peeth, a new cryptocurrency that he was launching in the crypto metaverse. On February 4th, Gunna announced earlier this week that he was backing the Pushin' Peeth for a new project. He even urged the fans to join him on Telegram so they could take its price action to the moon. Of course it goes to the moon. The tweet mentioned at Shane Mooncharts, but the users have no idea about the person behind this account. Gunna used to mention this name to prove that what he's posting is credible enough for the willing investors. Now, let's just take a pause for a second. Let's go take a look at this account, the Shane Mooncharts account. All right, so the last tweet we could see was February 1st, seemingly before the rug pull. And you could see that this Shane account retweeted it, constantly shilling it. And then all of a sudden, you get to the tweet from Gunna, and it's gone. It is just gone. Yeah, he deleted that tweet. But it's okay. We've got some other juicy bits on this that show some things going on. There's another one. This one is actually from Shane. It's not a retweet from somebody else. Tonight at 8 p.m. it's going down, and the tweet is deleted. So anyways, all right, back to this. After the rapper's Pushin' Peeth tweet, people noticed that the post was deleted right away, along with the Pushin' Peeth account. However, at Shane Mooncharts was still on the social media platform, as you just saw. I don't think he realizes that it's rug pulled, or he just just doesn't give a shit. Anyways, since the removal of Gunna's controversial tweet, fans quickly questioned Gunna's credibility for the shitcoin project. This is very important, right? Because our reputation precedes us, and you can spend years building up a reputation, and it can be destroyed in seconds. So when you decide to go and back, if a person decides to go and back these absolute garbage nonsense projects, they have to realize this is long-term thinking. Sure, you may make something really quick on the moment, but it's the future that you need to worry about. The fact that people that you may want to work with in the future are now no longer going to be able to trust you in any way, shape, or form because they know that you're willing to scam and it doesn't cost very much.
You mean it's short-term thinking? That's what you meant.
Oh, I meant, yeah, but I meant the long-term thinking of, you know, like you have to think long-term in the sense that, yes, you don't scam, right? Because it's going to come back to you. It's going to come back and bite you. It's the wrong thing to do. And then it's going to come back and hurt you when you least expect it.
It's fiat. It's fiat culture, dude. That's what shitcoinery is, right? It's fiat culture.
Oh, it totally is. Okay, so moving on, a Twitter user named @ZachXBT was the first person to discover Gunna's shitcoin scam. According to his tweet last Wednesday, February 2nd, the rug pull did not even last 8 hours. So let's take a look here. Okay, this is the ZachXBT account. Here we go. Nice scam @Gunna. Didn't even last 8 hours. Okay, and here we go. We can see the tweet, from him. And then let's take a look at the chart. Okay? Like, look at this is a 15-minute chart, people. This is a 15-minute chart. That means that every single one of these lines is 15 minutes only. Wrecked.
Wow.
Wrecked. Okay? This is just complete garbage nonsense. All right. The self-proclaimed on-chain sleuth, in brackets, investigator, added a screenshot of Pushin's trend via TradingView, which we just looked at. It was shown there that the cryptocurrency's value suddenly dropped at that moment. This was a clear sign that a rug pull had been pulled off successfully for the past few hours. You think? Many people posted their reactions to Gunna's shitcoin scam. One user said that he had seen a lot of BS in his time, but the current scenario was considered the worst for cryptocurrencies. Okay, so just before we wrap this up, we should go through some of these tweets from people that got pissed off about getting rug pulled or the rug pulling. Here we go. Gunna and his team launched Pushin P. I've seen a lot of BS in my time on crypto, but this one is the worst. Be careful. We'll actually probably moon, but they're all liars. No, we'll most likely not moon. Most likely has died on the vine and will be a zombie coin. Okay, so don't listen to that. Gunna really released a crypto and pulled the rug. Damn, bro. Gunna got his fans with the crypto scam. I mean, this is just brutal stuff, right? It really, really is. And this is funny. I was just doing some digging. I love finding these total garbage token websites that pretend to like validate and let you know if something is a scam or not. Keep in mind, right? Take a look here. So there's a button here for you to shill Pushin P after we already know that it has rug pulled, okay? And take a look at the risk analysis. It's not the contract isn't risky. It's not a honeypot, but yet there's no X for a scam. So at least it got part of it right. At least it got part of it right. Look, guys, that was just a typical rug pull scam. These worked really well in 2017. It kind of reminds me of Potcoin with Dennis Rodman, right? Like he went, shilled Potcoin, and this frickin' thing that doesn't need to exist just went through the frickin' roof for I don't know how long. And it was just absolutely brutal. And then, of course, it reminds me of, we always like to talk about the cubes, but I got pulled into this Unicoin Gold because I saw people, right? Like you see how Gunna was using his influence to get people into the token. I got sucked into that. I saw people like the cubes, Ashton Kutcher, getting into this. And I'm like, you know what? These people know what they're doing. I should give this a shot. Not realizing, why the hell am I here? Like I'm not here to buy fake money. Like it's not going to be money, right? These tokens on a platform, they're only money in that ecosystem, but out in the real world, nobody gives a shit, and it's not censor resistant. And the truth is that today you can't even trade this garbage. No one will even buy this crap off you. You can't do anything with it. It's a zombie coin that doesn't move. And there you have it.
Oh man. Dude, gonna scam, bro. That's what I gotta say. Totally wrecked all those people, man. I just look. I want to say I feel bad, but like, what do you expect? Believing someone that's called gonna, like, are you gonna believe that he's gonna show you the next best thing? And my question is, because this is usually how all these pump and dumps work, right? Is that the shitcoin devs, they go to someone who has influence, someone who's famous, someone who has a blue check mark, and they go up to them and they say, hey, listen, we'll pay you for you to, shill this token. Solana Labs, I've shown you guys the receipts. They came up to me. They're like, hey, could we use Bitvault mining, to legitimize our project? I forget what was the other company, right? So it's like, that's what these shitcoin companies do, right? They go to influencers, they pay them money under the table, and they tell them, hey, promote this to your following. And then, unfortunately, people that are just getting into the space, maybe fans of Gunna are like, hey, like, this is the next great big thing. But the only thing that I wanted to add, the last thing I'm going to say, is I've never seen a rug pull that fast. Usually it takes like a couple months. This thing was like down to the floor, full on explosion. Yeah. But anyways, Ali, what are your thoughts on this?
No, nothing. At the end of the day, some people are gonna learn the hard way, right? And
I see what he did there.
Yeah. And I've when I came to the space, like, I've heard, like, because I did a lot of research, and I heard a lot of people go down that same path in 2017, and I was like, okay, there's lessons to be learned from history here, and my mother always told me, like, a smart man is one that learns from his mistakes, but a genius is the one who learns from other people's mistakes. So at the end of the day, this is all just good for Bitcoin. People that went down that rabbit hole in 2017, most of them are all Bitcoiners now. So all for it. Let people learn the hard way. It makes them more maximalists in a few years. I'll take it.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. We call it on this show, you have to pay the price of tuition. And, 99% of people, Phil and I have had a podcast, independently for a very long time. 99% of Bitcoiners, unless you're like Adam Back or someone, right? You shitcoin a little bit. And then by getting wrecked by those shitcoins, then you get appreciation for the true king, and the true king is Bitcoin. But anyways, Phil, it's time for the Daily Meme Review. Brought to you by Citadel 21. It's the best Bitcoin cultural zine. This is volume 10, volume 9, and they're scarce. Get your copy quickly because there's only 1,000 copies made per volume. Toxic stories from savage Bitcoiners, comics, articles, really cool stuff. Citadel 21 today. All right, everybody, the first meme is brought to us by a fellow YouTuber from the Toxic Happy Hour, the legendary Pubby. Find him on Pubby Toxic Happy Hour Spaces. Anyways, let's check it out. The Bitcoin Day in Review. Government. 3.5 billion of Bitcoin in an online account linked to your name. It is referring to, the Bitfinex hacker had his private keys stored on a cloud server, he had the private keys to $3.5 billion. I don't know. People are saying it's fishy. I would agree. I have no idea what to expect. Nothing surprises me anymore after the last 2 years.
The memes haven't stopped, man. They haven't stopped since it's video after video. Anyways,
they've been relentless. No, I know, dude. Anyways, here is by CK Snarks, homie, a friend of the show. The symbol of freedom in 2022. Fuck yeah, Canada. If you guys don't get it,
honk honk.
The
honk honk.
Canadian police is seizing gas tanks, so they could freeze, I guess. They're trying to stop the protest, but they can't. There's way too many trucks. The tow truck companies don't want to comply. Yes, this is a sign of freedom. Anyways, moving on by the Bitcoinator. Oh, there's two memes.
Killing these people.
The best I could do is a cloud server. That is a picture of the wife of the hacker, and here it's the hacker. You stored the Bitcoin in a hardware wallet, right? Right. Savage. The savage. Okay, this is by Winekiss. My Bitcoin wallet, my bank account. That's not accurate, Phil. That's not accurate, bro. My Bitcoin wallet here, I don't there dude, listen. I have money in my fiat for my fiat businesses, but in my personal checking account, I think it's negative. Right? So this is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. If you're doing it like this, you're doing it wrong. You should have no lighter. Maybe a match. Maybe a match. Your bank account should be a tiny little match, and your Bitcoin wallet should be a big-ass fucking lighter. Anyways, moving on. That's an F for you, Weinicus. All right, moving on. Is by a friend of the show, Corey Clipston. Bitcoin crypto. Oh, man.
It is such a great template. I love it.
It is. Okay, here's Bitcoin. This is million, billion, $30 trillion in debt, referencing, the U.S. government. And of course, when you're born, good luck, kid. Yes, that means every U.S. citizen, as soon as they're born, they're already $90,000 in debt. Absolutely bonkers. I think very powerful image. Last meme, it's by Alex Gladstein. Now, it caused a little bit of a ruckus, and I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on this. Here's Alex Gladstein, freedom, Bitcoin, the Putin regime, Russia, and it's a Trojan horse. Now, here's what Max had to say. How is this a Trojan horse if it's known and broadcast that Russia's looking to bypass the United States dollar financial terrorism? And of course, we've always covered this on the show, guys. The U.S. weaponizes the dollar, right? And it uses sanctions against countries, and because it's the world reserve currency, it's a very effective tool to essentially go after countries. Like we saw that in Afghanistan, we saw that in Cuba, saw that used against Russia, we see that used against China. Anyways, Alex Gladstein replies to Max, IMO, there are several short-term reasons for Putin to want to use Bitcoin, getting around dollar systems mining, but long-term, the Bitcoin virus spreading across Russia is a disaster for him because it prevents total state control over the economy and currency, of which Max Kaiser replies, cringe. So anyways, what are your guys' thoughts on that last meme about the little debate between Kaiser and Alex?
So I can see Alex's point. I think that maybe Max is misunderstanding, that meme in this case, because if we could pull it back up for a second, just got to go take a look at it one more time.
Yes, one
Sorry.
second.
My bad.
Okay, here.
All right. Okay, and if we could just take a look just quickly at Max's comment over there. How is it a Trojan horse? Okay. So look, right? Essentially what it is that Putin, right? They're going to go and bring Bitcoin in, but they think, and this is something that Alex has said several times, okay? They think that some of these people think that they can separate the freedom from Bitcoin. Okay. And I think that is possibly the point that Max is misunderstanding. So Putin is sitting there saying, yeah, we can undermine the US by using Bitcoin. But what they don't understand is that they can't separate the freedom from Bitcoin. And in the long run, that will end up undermining their regime.
It's not that it undermines it. It just Bitcoin separates the money from state. It would undermine any government, right? Because at the end of the day, whether you like it or not, right, the power that governments have today come from their ability to make money out of nothing and essentially tax their citizens a hidden tax through inflation, right? And essentially inflation is a redistribution of wealth from the lower and middle class back to the state and back to the 1% or the wealthy that have the means to save in equities and real estate and benefit from asset inflation, right? So again, and Bitcoin protects, the little guy. It protects everyone from, we saw Ricardo Salinas, this billionaire in Mexico, said it the other day. The best innovation of Bitcoin is essentially the ability for it to be unconfiscatable, right? For your ability to save wealth without risk of being confiscated from you or it being debased, right? Like the example of Ali was talking about. That's happened to millions of people all around the world where his dad worked his ass off for 30 years and then it just being evaporated in a short amount of time. Same thing happened to my family members in Venezuela, right? Bitcoin protects you from that shit, right? And in the process, it essentially empowers people over the state. But maybe I understand what Max is saying that, because he's looking at it from a geopolitical standpoint, where for the first time ever, if Russia uses Bitcoin effectively, it's essentially able to circumvent U.S. sanctions. So they both have a point. But anyways, I'm going to shut up and I'm going to rate the memes. I'm going to give it a yoga ball. If you step on this yoga ball, it feels really good on the arch of your feet, and you can put it against the wall, and you could like stretch out your shoulders. It's great. Anyways, Phil, what did you give those memes?
I'm just picturing that spot between the shoulder blade and the neck. You know that works. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, those are definitely great memes, and I am gonna give it this is the book for my original rabbit hole a very long time ago when I was 15 years old, the Illuminatus trilogy.
Interesting. Yeah. Anyways, nice. Ali, what would you give those memes?
Well, yeah, I'll give it. I just want to comment on the last Max Kaiser and Alex tweet. I think they both have a point. I think Alex is right that it will give more freedom to Russian citizens. But I also agree with Max that it's gonna improve Russia's situation as a whole. I think I'm on the camp of Michael Saylor on this one, where it's, Bitcoin makes everything better. If you buy it personally, it'll make your life better. If you buy it as a company, it'll make your company better. If you buy it as a country, it'll make your country better. So yes, it will give Russian citizens more freedom, but that's a good thing. It might take a little bit power away from Putin, but if it makes Russia more prosperous, then that's a good thing for Russia. Mm-hmm. So they both kind of have a point there. So yeah, but great discussion. I'm gonna give it a solid iPhone 12.
Woo! Solid iPhone 12. Awesome scores. Anyways, guys, we want to know, do you agree with our scores? Do you disagree? Let us know down in the comment section. And of course, subscribe to us on alternative video platforms, because we do talk shit about a lot of people in high places like rumble.com and our personal favorite bitcointv.com. They don't censor there because Bitcoin TV. And make sure to join our Telegram group. Link us some Bitcoin memes to review. Anyways, Phil, it's time for the Daily News. Brought to you by CryptoCloaks.com. They make the best 3D printed Bitcoin merch, like the 3D printed Bitcoin Honey Badger or the 3D printed Bitcoin art sculpture. Comes in different colors. You can customize it like you like, and you put some stuff in there, whatever you'd like, and you can take advantage of the link down below for 5% off CryptoCloaks.com. All right, this is absolutely bonkers. We've been calling this, we've been saying this. If you've been, following the show, this is inevitable. Why? Because of the game theory. It's fascinating, though, because you saw from the Central Bank of Russia calling for an all-out ban, to essentially, Putin saying, no, but it's good for mining, and now it's gone to the point where Russia's like, hey, no, we could recognize that, and we could actually just recognize Bitcoin and shitcoins as a form of currency. And let's dig into the article and find out what the reasons are for that. The Russian government and the country's central bank have reached an agreement to draft legislation to amend existing laws recognizing Bitcoin and shitcoins as a form of currency, according to a statement on Tuesday. The agreement is a significant reversal after the Bank of Russia, that is so powerful. Bank of Russia last month proposed banning miners and several other crypto operations over concerns that they could endanger the country's financial system. News outlet Kommersant first reported the announcement on Tuesday. It is understood cryptos are to be classified as an analog of currencies and not as financial digital assets. That's absolutely amazing. So instead of it being a digital asset like it's classified in the US, now it's going to be a form of a currency. Legislation will reportedly be drawn up no later than February 18th. Now, check this out. The establishment of rules for the circulation of cryptocurrencies and control measures will minimize the threat to the stability of the financial system and reduce the use of cryptocurrencies for illegal purposes, since a complete ban on the segment of operations related to their circulation is impossible. Do you understand how powerful that statement is? They realize, and this is what we've been saying on the show for months, if you guys have been listening, If you ban Bitcoin and shitcoins, what you do is you push it underground. And here's the Russian government acknowledging that. And they're seeing it, hey, it's much better if this is above the table and we could tax it than the danger of this going all underground completely, and then we miss out on that revenue, and even worse, we actually have to spend money trying to enforce the unenforceable, right? Anyways, crypto's use as a currency will only be possible following proper identity checks via the country's banking system, licensed intermediaries, while operations exceeding around $8,000 or 600,000 rubles must be declared according to the document. Very similar to the US, and the US is 10,000 USD. The complete absence of regulation of the industry, as well as the establishment of a ban, will lead to an increase in the share of the shadow economy, which is what we've been saying, an increase in fraud cases and destabilization of the industry as a whole. That is absolutely bonkers. So they're realizing, hey, guess what? We can't ban this, right? Because if we ban it, it's unstoppable. So what we're going to do is essentially we're going to make it legal. We're going to regulate it. We're going to tax it so it benefits the Russian government. Now, at the end of the day, let's talk about the geopolitical game theory here for a little bit, because Putin's playing chess. While the U.S. government and Joe Biden is declaring Bitcoin a threat to national security, the Russian government saying, yeah, this is a currency. What is that going to force the U.S. to do? Right? Again, this is game theory of Bitcoin playing out, right? Like we said with the China ban. China banned Bitcoin mining. Guess what happened? An opportunity another country opened up, and that's exactly what happened. Those miners from China migrated to Texas, right? So the game theory of Bitcoin, something that we have been theorizing and talking about it in theory for years now, is actually playing out on a geopolitical level worldwide. It's absolutely fascinating. And again, why is this happening? Because no one could stop the incentives provided by the Bitcoin network. And again, you can't ban something that's an idea. You can't ban an idea. The idea of self-custody is out there. The idea that I could essentially hold my own wealth and I could transact with anyone anywhere around the world without having to ask anybody for permission is already out, right? Look at the failed attempt at the drug war. You see, right? Governments didn't want the drug war to happen, right? They didn't want the drugs to happen. Guess what? They failed. You can't stop that. You can't stop an idea like that. And that's the case with Bitcoin. So again, it's what Ali was saying earlier. This is a win for Russian citizens. This is a win for Russia in general, because any country that adopts Bitcoin, right, automatically becomes more prosperous. The example that I'm going to give is El Salvador, and it hasn't even been legal tender for more than a year, and more people already have Bitcoin wallets than the legacy financial system has been able to provide for more than 40 years, right? Bitcoin is winning. Bitcoin brings economic opportunity, and people are paying attention, and any country that tries to ban it is going to be left behind, and they're intentionally hurting their citizens for short-term benefit and long-term disaster. Phil?
Yeah, so I do think that this is good, but at the same time, I was also reading a Cointelegraph article about this that was indicating, so obviously the the Russians want to make sure that everything is licensed, right? Even if you have a P2P exchange, right? Not necessarily a centralized exchange, but something like even like a Bisq or a HODL, they would expect that if they are, quote unquote, set up over there, that they would have to be licensed. So I do think, again, I understand the point of bringing it above ground, making it so that everything is on the table so that they don't get stuck having to fight this type of stuff underground. But at the same time, I also think that once we get to that point, we bring in the bureaucracy. But the good saving grace about this is the fact that even with all of this gatekeeping, they can't actually control Bitcoin. They can only control their corridors. That's all they can control. So I think that, look, I think that it's a step in the right direction, but I think it's going to be kind of like a Pandora's box. I think it might be a Pandora's box for them in the near term, and hoping that the freedom angle of this plays out, and that, to Ali's point, everything gets better, and to your point, everything gets better, for the Russian people.
I think that once people realize that it's the fiat on and off ramps are what governments are going to be able to strong arm, and they're going to be able to regulate. But once people realize I don't have to get out of the Bitcoin ecosystem, right? Then, I don't know what they're going to do. They're going to pound sand. But anyways, Ali, what are your thoughts on this crazy news from Russia? Dude, it's changed so fast. Banning, not banning. Yeah, let's make it a currency.
Yeah, no, Nico, like you just said it right there. Like, once people realize that they can just stay within the Bitcoin ecosystem, that's where freedom go up technology truly shines. And that's where I completely agree with Alex Gladstein on his meme. So yeah, and then you guys just nailed everything on the head. This is good for Russia, and it's good for Russian citizens, and it's a domino effect for sure. Like, this is definitely a power play on behalf of the Russians, specifically where like things are getting heated up right now. It's a statement that, we can not participate in the US dollar economy, and there's an alternative. It's almost like just waving a warning and saying, hey, like we have this thing over here, so it's definitely plays into the game theory of Bitcoin, which is amazing, because all Bitcoiners have been saying for the last 2 years is exactly that, and we saw Salvador, we saw now Russia, and we saw with the China Bitcoin man, we're seeing it happen in real time. And I guess Bitcoiners, sometimes they forget to pause and say, oh, we actually said that. But I'm new to this space. So yeah, I remember. I remember everything that, Bitcoiners were saying. So yeah, just keep the course.
Absolutely. It's so incredibly bullish. And you touched upon two things that were, I think you really hit the nail on the head, right? Which is right now we have the system of the petrodollar, right? Which is this very shady deal with the Saudis that the U.S. government did. I think it was in the 70s or in the 80s. And essentially, the deal was the U.S. government would supply arms to Saudi Arabia, and in return, Saudi Arabia is forced to sell oil in dollars, right? I think, right, that eventually all energy is going to be sold in Bitcoin. Right, benefits the world. It doesn't allow the U.S. government to sanction certain countries, and we saw a trade deal recently between Russia and China, and for the first time in a long time, they didn't use the dollar to close that deal. They actually used the euro. How long until people start realizing, hey, let's use Bitcoin instead, an apolitical money that can't be censored by anybody, that is literally designed to go up forever? I think it's just a matter of time. And when that happens, the floodgates just open, right? So, but I think it's a matter of time. I'm calling it right now. I think all energy eventually is going to be priced in Bitcoin. But anyways, while the really good news is happening in Russia, right, potentially making it some form of currency, really good news happening in El Salvador, the U.S. is just, at least the federal government, on the state level, the states are bullish. On the federal government, they're really shitting the bucket. Ali is evangelizing Bitcoin to the Canadian Parliament. Let's check out this awesome video. I can't play the whole thing because it's pretty long, but I'm going to play the ends.
A good country example that's doing this right now is El Salvador. They recently did everything that I'm suggesting today to this committee. They are mining Bitcoin with renewable geothermal energy. They have made Bitcoin legal tender and embraced the technology to help bank all of their citizens. Today, more Salvadorians have Bitcoin wallets than they have bank accounts. More money is flowing into the hands of local citizens than to intermediaries like Western Union and Visa that used to suck the country and its citizens dry. North of $400 million per year is going to the Salvadorians. This past week, an Arizona state senator proposed a bill that would make Bitcoin legal tender in the state. Florida, Texas, Wyoming, and New York are passing legislation that is friendly and inviting to Bitcoin companies. Miami is even buying Bitcoin on the city's balance sheet. The world is moving fast, and we should move with it. The countries that will move first will reap the biggest rewards. Let's beat them to it and make Bitcoin legal tender here in Canada alongside our proud Canadian dollar. And my last proposition to the committee is let's borrow $10 billion from the Bank of Canada and buy Bitcoin with it. Our country's balance sheet is in shambles, and we need to strengthen it now more than ever. And let's be honest, what's another $10 billion after the years of 2020 and 2021? Thank you very much.
Goosebumps and epic. I'm like, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a couple questions. Were you nervous, and how long did you practice that speech?
Yeah, of course I was nervous, but I didn't have that long to practice it. Otherwise, I would have memorized it. But I had like a grand opening of a new location like the day before. So yeah, I was pretty busy that whole weekend, and so I had to like read it out, which made me like a little bit nervous. But yeah, it went well. I worked on it. I wanted to be ambitious in my ask because I figured we wouldn't, as a Bitcoin community, we wouldn't get an opportunity like that very often. So yeah, like what better way to move Canada forward than to make Bitcoin legal tender, borrow $10 billion from the Bank of Canada, buy Bitcoin with it. I should have asked more, to be honest, because the environmentalist that came in after me, she was asking for $10 billion per year to fight climate change.
Sorry.
And I thought I had a big ask, but when I heard that, I was like, holy shit, man, these guys are crazy. But yeah, no, like Canada, I told them that, Canada's leading industries are the finance industry and the energy industry. And both of these can be plugged into Bitcoin. There's no reason why we shouldn't build a parallel system next to our like dying, crumbling one. It's very hard to try to tell somebody to just completely remove all the traditional finance systems and drop it. But if we're telling them to build a parallel system that integrates with that and just improves it, makes it better, makes it faster, makes it stronger, I think that could be appealing to governments and members of parliament. I knew I wouldn't have people interested. And I pretty much knew that they would be laughing at me. Nobody asked me any follow-up questions except Pierre Poilievre, which is running for the MP of Canada, by the way.
He might have a shot too because of how pissed people are at Trudeau. So you said something really interesting, right? Said that the environmentalists asked for $10 billion a year. Now here's the kicker. Investing $10 billion into Bitcoin will better the environment more than giving $10 billion to an environmentalist. I'm calling it right now. Because it will make energy manufacturers much more efficient. Instead of subsidizing green energy, right? It will actually make green energy possible and profitable because at the times of peak production, right? Perhaps there's not enough buyers of that energy. There's always the buyer of last resort, and those are Bitcoin miners, right? So again, it's mind blowing. But you say this to someone, and they're like, "No, we need $10 billion to the bureaucrats because they're gonna fix it, flying their private planes, going to different places, getting Greta Thunberg to scream at people, telling them how bad they are, while she's flying, a 737 by herself, going to different fucking countries."
In some places in Canada, they're paying the US to take the excess energy. They're paying.
Oh yeah,
dude,
to get the energy off their hands,
dude.
So it makes no sense for Canada to be doing that. Like, just think, You know, like you can see what's happening in Texas with the Bitcoin mining industry over there. They're thriving. You know, they're making life easier for them over there. Canada's full of excess energy all over, renewable and gas and all over. Like in Alberta, the oil sands, and like this is a gold mine for Bitcoin mining, and people don't know it.
Absolutely.
Which drives me crazy.
And then for anybody that doesn't know, and I tell this every time, right, guys, this oil energy production is not like extracting oil, right? Then you put that oil in a barrel, right? It doesn't work like that. When you make energy, you have to use it on the spot, right? So if you make excess energy, you have to send it somewhere, which is why right now Canadians are sending that to the US, right? What else are you going to do with it, right? At dirt cheap prices, I'm assuming, because if no one wants it, basic supply and demand, it's going to be cheap. Instead of exporting it at very cheap prices to the United States, why don't you just mine it in Canada? And you could actually benefit from it racking in Bitcoin, right? And this is what we're talking about. So it's like this whole concept where, because I think that people don't understand this concept that if you make energy, somehow you could just make less energy. No, dude, that's not how the grid works. The grid operators have to essentially guess how much energy is going to be used at night, and then essentially make that, produce that much energy. And if it's too much, they have to send it somewhere else. They have to sell it, right? Bitcoin produces stability because there's always a buyer. So even if you produce more, there's a buyer of last resort, which is Bitcoin. And that's exactly what is happening in Texas. And that's exactly what Ali is advocating for to happen in Canada. Because again, like we've always said, it's not that Bitcoin uses, the energy going to cities. That would be too expensive for Bitcoin miners. Bitcoin miners use energy that was already going to waste anyways, right? So, and by doing so, it makes energy producers even more efficient, which actually helps the fucking planet, rather than giving $10 billion to some environmentalist bureaucracy of which you don't know God what they're going to do with the money. Anyways, Phil, you have any closing thoughts?
Yeah, they're giving, so I still can't get over that $10 billion a year, but if you think about it, right, these people, what they're doing is creating a rent seek. They understand, like, look, if I can get these people to give me $10 billion a year, then I can build a structure around it, and that structure has to constantly be fed dollars. And then all of a sudden, at some point, these structures, they kind of become a little too big to fail. Yeah. So it's really like, you know what? I have to give them props for knowing how to scam. I really wish that I honestly had no shame and I could do stuff like that. I really do. But unfortunately, we actually want to provide proof of work. We actually want to provide value. We actually want to see where we stand based on personal responsibility and what we can create. So you walked in there and you asked them to frickin', use 10 billion to buy Bitcoin instead of asking for 100 billion, Hey, look, you were being reasonable, and it's perfectly fine to be reasonable. I would have been reasonable too. But we could learn something from the scammers and be not reasonable.
And in 10 years, you'll get to say, I fucking told you so, guys. But anyways,
that's the best part about it.
You're going to look like a genius. Anyways, Phil, there was an open source software release today. Why don't you tell everybody about it?
Software releases. Brought to you by CipherSafe. Check them out, cyphersafe.io, the best place to store your Bitcoin seed. Check out the Cypher Wheel, or the all-new Cypher Grid comes complete with punch tool and tamper-resistant wire. We've got Sphinx Relay version 2.2.5 that was released. That is down below in the show notes. Guys, you know the deal. Rain or shine, we post unless we tell you that we don't. Don't forget to check us out on our audio-only platforms. I'm talking about Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. And if you want to stream us some sats, check us out on fountain.fm.
Awesome. Thank you, Phil. All right, guys, that was our show. Before we go, I want to give a very special shout out to our awesome guest, the legendary Ali. You can go give him a follow on Twitter at the Real Tahini's Restaurant. They make the best Middle Eastern food in the world, and they're going to completely destroy halal guys because they have Bitcoin, and they're going to conquer the world. Bring all that Middle Eastern food everywhere. Guys, that was our show. If you enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Smash that like button. And of course, if you want to continue hearing the Bitcoin news from the pleb perspective and the catastrophic fails from the environmentalists asking for $10 billion, definitely consider subscribing to Simply Bitcoin. We'll see you tomorrow, guys, for a brand new episode.
You can't separate the freedom from Bitcoin.